For years, the FPS genre has felt pretty stagnant, being dominated by the Call of Duty and Halo franchises that have been getting progressively worse and worse reviews since like 2012. So in 2014, when Blizzard announced a new team shooter, FPS gamers everywhere rejoiced. Finally, they were going to experience something new and dynamic. And in 2016, the game was finally released. Overwatch would go on to become one of the most loved and played games in the FPS genre, even winning Game of the Year in 2016 over games like Uncharted 4 and Doom 2016. It would also go on to foster a massive and passionate player base, being one of the main reasons esports is so big in the West nowadays. Of course, with hindsight, we all see the Overwatch League as being something that was destined to fail, but for the first few seasons, it seemed like the Overwatch League was something that was a sure thing. There was just a certain charm that Overwatch had that couldn't be captured by other FPS games, even when it comes to games in a similar vein like Team Fortress 2. But as time went on, and more heroes were added, the game became a little too difficult to balance, and the meta became more and more strict. For lack of better words, the players were solving the game, and experimentation became a thing of the past. And as we all know, with the introduction of Brigitte, who could do everything and could solo carry teams, the community just kind of gave up. And no matter what Blizzard did at this point, the magic was gone, and the game would just never be the same. So the devs started working on a sequel, a game that would tweak the system, giving life to old heroes that had fallen out of the meta, and nerfing some of the peskier heroes that it seemed like you couldn't win without. But not only that, the main draw of the sequel was the new PvE modes that were announced. No longer would you be stuck playing a handful of modes with the same heroes, you could now join your friends and team up against the AI. Ah, how naive we were. When Overwatch 2 was released, it was almost immediately met with absolute criticism. Negative reception across the board. People were calling it Overwatch 1.5, and then when they realized that the game really wasn't different enough from Overwatch to even call it that, they just called it Overwatch 1.1. They even noted that when you boot up the game, it still just says it's Overwatch. The reality is, the sequel added nothing new to the gameplay aside from taking away a tank from the lineup, making the games 5v5 instead of 6v6. Hell, you could even argue the game is an objective downgrade, because all the heroes weren't available. Bastion was missing for the first few weeks, and Mei was missing for months. And as someone who mained Mei in Overwatch 1, that was basically the nail in the coffin for me. But not only that, in Overwatch 2, the heroes were locked behind challenges, which just seems really backwards in a game where team composition really matters. By and large, Overwatch 2 was received mostly as a shop overhaul more than a sequel, and many found the shop overhaul so predatory to the point that they were missing loot boxes. Imagine missing loot boxes, like a feature that was seen so predatory that they got national governments around the world to ban them from games. You got loot boxes when you leveled up or you completed certain challenges, and you'd get cool skins or emotes for the entire roster when you'd open them. Or if you got something you already owned when you opened the loot boxes, they'd be converted into Overwatch coins that you could use to get things that you actually wanted. Unfortunately, the only way to get anything now is by actually paying real money, or grinding the battle pass, which is an arguably more predatory feature than loot boxes. But we still had something to look forward to. The Overwatch team would stand by the notion that they were still working hard on the PvE content that would be coming at a later date. They would keep this act going for years before finally deciding to axe the whole project. That's right, Overwatch 2 would no longer have a PvE portion to their game. Just consume. You look hungry. Would you like the battle pass? Here's 10 Overwatch coins. You're only 1,300 away from a new skin. I remember talking about this with my friends when they first announced that they were going to scrap the project after years of working on it. My personal game theory is that they were just never working on the PvE content. I mean, maybe they were for a month or so, but they could never really figure out how to make it work in a fun way, so they just scrapped it silently and then kept the kind of facade going that they were working on something that wasn't a new season, and they were just waiting for a good time to announce that they were never going to release the PvE content. But unfortunately, that was kind of all the community was looking forward to. So, yikes. To have that many people seemingly working on a project that was really the main draw of Overwatch 2 for years, only to not release anything and cancel the whole project, it just doesn't make any sense at all. And looking back on it, we got next to no updates on their progress at all during that time. So, Overwatch 2 had one of the rockiest first years out of any game that had such a critically acclaimed first title. But now that the outrage and disappointment has died down a little bit, mostly because of the release of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. Conveniently, another Activision Blizzard title that has been largely seen as just another shop overhaul. How is Overwatch 2 in 2024? Now that the review score has gone from overwhelmingly negative to mostly negative, that must mean that things are on the up and up, right? Well, let's move past the shop and all the broken promises and evaluate the gameplay. First off, like I said at the beginning of the video, the largest change they made is bringing the gameplay from 6v6 to 5v5. This makes the one tank you have on your team feel way more important, and if you've got a good team that knows how to focus on supports before going after the tanks, you'll just watch the other tanks just crumble away. This change also makes supports feel way more important, especially those heroes with great healing capability like Moira and Mercy, because if you have the ability to stop your tank from dying, you just feel unstoppable. Unfortunately for DPS heroes, it just kind of makes it feel like you're not very important to the game at all, which is a shame because I was someone who loved playing DPS in Overwatch 1. Sure, you could argue that damage heroes were a little bit overtuned in Overwatch 1, but the game has never been balanced, so why are we arguing about that? At times in this game, I really feel that the DPS heroes got shafted, like they don't have the impact that they should. They feel too squishy to fight with the tanks in the front lines, but a lot of them don't excel at range. The only DPS hero that feels consistently good and like an attack hero kind of should feel is Bastion, who, once again, wasn't in the initial release of Overwatch 2 because they couldn't find a good way to balance him. And they still haven't. I honestly feel like I have an easier time getting kills with support heroes that also have good damage output, like Zenyatta, over attack heroes like Mei, who, once again, weren't in the initial release of the game because they couldn't find a way to balance her. And now she just kind of like puts up walls. I don't know. I feel like she doesn't do nearly as much damage as she should. She's got a really good ult though, I guess. I don't know. When it comes to the flow of the game though, it doesn't really feel much different than Overwatch 1. This game still lasts around 10 minutes-ish. Push is a fun new mode, but it's only on like 2 maps, so you're not really gonna play it the majority of the time. Most of the time you're just gonna play that kind of King of the Hill game mode that you've been playing for the past almost 10 years now. They also added a new game mode called Flashpoint, which really just feels like the basic mode that you've been playing for the past 10 years, but without the round break. It's also only on like 1 map, at least I've only played it on 1 map, so I wouldn't be able to tell you if there was other ones. And you know, despite the Overwatch team putting their community through hell, the community in this game isn't nearly as toxic as you'd think it is, at least in quick play. I mean, the majority of people are just kind of goofing around having a good time. I remember back in like 2018, one of my favorite things to do after a night out with the boys was just hop on some fucking Overwatch and play Junkrat.
Alright, so it's just 1-1. We got 1 point. They got 1 point. It's the sudden death shit. We got 18 seconds before the round starts. We about to fucking get it. Let's go!
This is what I like to call my Junkrat phase, and it was easily the best time I've ever had playing a shooter. Probably because I was drunk. There's no way in hell I could do this nowadays. Mostly because none of my friends drink anymore, but also because of the way the game is structured now. It's way harder for heroes to just kind of kill farm, which don't get me wrong, is a good thing. The team-based shooters should feel more team-based. Of course, there will always be those people that get on and then they just blame everyone on the team but themselves for their losses. After I got done recording footage for this video, I played with this Mauga that just kept charging straight into the middle of all 5 of them and getting melted. And then when he died like 3 times in a row, he would go, "Kiriko, please." What the fuck do you want me to do? Even if I was heal botting you, we could not 2v5 their team. They had an Orisa and a Bastion on their team. Those guys alone will fuck us both up. I really wish I got that on recording, bro. It's so sad that I didn't. God, I'm so content pilled, dude. I see some person doing something stupid and I'm like, oh, I wish I got that on recording. Anyways, the community as a whole isn't as toxic as you would think it is, or even as it used to be. I feel like I remember Overwatch 1 being like a pretty big cesspool. Like I said, overall the game doesn't feel like too much of a departure from the original, which, depending on how you look at it, can be a good or a bad thing. It's still Overwatch at the end of the day. The gameplay is pretty much exactly the same. It's fun, it's team focused, and It has way more ways to interact with your team than other games in the FPS genre like Call of Duty or Battlefield. Sure, everything in the shop is pretty fucking expensive, but when you remember you're playing a first-person shooter and, you know, you don't really get to see a lot of the cosmetics that you have, it becomes less of a thing that matters, at least for me. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I'm really tired of live service games as a whole. The seasons, gimmick, and battle passes are all just so played out by every game because Fortnite did good and it fucking just destroyed the industry. That's not me blaming Fortnite. That's me blaming the industry execs saying, look at this game that's doing good. Let's copy them. I'm so tired of seeing battle passes in games, man. It's tough because, like, I'm one of those people that is fucking nostalgic for loot boxes, which is crazy. But at the same time, if you want anything in this game, you're gonna have to pay more money than you would if you were just gonna buy the loot boxes. And you didn't need to buy them in the first game. And you still got cool stuff. So if you're one of those people that, I don't know, you love getting new cosmetics and things like that, this game is going to drain your fucking wallet. Because you don't get anything in the free battle pass. You have to pay for the premium one if you want to get anything, really. Anything of value. I would much rather pay for a game that has everything locked behind loot boxes than pay for a battle pass that I have to buy again in a month. Overall, it's just a less rewarding experience for me, which is kind of disheartening. But maybe I'm in the minority here. I don't know. But now that over a year has gone by and the hate mob has died down, can we really say that Overwatch 2 is as awful as everyone said it was on release? No. It's still Overwatch. The game was great in 2016, and it's still great now. It's more restrictive for sure, but it's still fun. If you're like me and you stopped playing shortly after the initial release of Overwatch 2, I really recommend giving it another try. For the past few months, I've felt like there was just something missing in the FPS genre, because the recent release of MW3 being something I refuse to pay more than $30 for has left me without a shooter to play, and that's something I've always had. So going back to Overwatch was, you know, a little refreshing change for me. If you're in the same boat as me, you know, kind of underwhelmed with the state of FPS games at this point, maybe it's time to give Overwatch 2 a second chance. You might be surprised at how much it feels like the good old days. Huh? What are you saying? They just announced passive healing for all heroes in the next season? Why would they do that? That's completely backwards from what should happen in a team-based game. Oh, for fuck's sakes. Of course, after I say all this, they announce that they're going to give all heroes passive healing in the next fucking season. Of course. Why are there even roles at this point, then? Why are there roles? A huge part of being a DPS hero was relying on your tank to block hits and relying on your support to heal you if you got hit. And if they couldn't heal you, you had to get to one of the health packs strewn around the map, right? And if you have passive healing, why stick with your group? Why stick with your team? Tracer can already go back in time and fully heal herself. Sombra can already go invisible and hack health packs on the enemy side. Giving these heroes passive healing on top of that is a fucking giga buff. Sniper heroes like Widowmaker and Hanzo can get hit and hide behind a wall for 10 seconds, essentially making their team 4v5 while they heal. There's just no way that I see giving passive healing to DPS and tank heroes being something that's going to keep the game team focused. Call of Duty has fucking passive healing, and good luck trying to get two people to fucking work together. Battlefield is a little more team focused than Call of Duty. You got super nerfed passive healing, but if you actually want to be healed, you go to find a medic. The one class in the game that can heal multiple teammates within a proximity of them. They can also all revive teammates, you know, like a medic, like Mercy. There's also 100 fucking teammates on that map. So, I mean, you rarely get people that are sticking together in their squad. The squad members are just fucking glorified spawn points, so you don't have to run across a country like Terry Fox. How are they gonna fucking balance this? Imagine Roadhog with his 700 HP pool, using his smelling salts to heal 450 HP, and then still passively healing on top of that. That's... Ugh. Ugh. This is the first change you make after Bobby Kotick leaves? He was the one making your games bad? Fuck you guys, man. Never mind. Don't play this game. Fuck's sakes. Fuck.